Welcome to Amplify, the personal brand entrepreneur show. Today on the show, Bob is speaking with James Church.
The pitch is the key to opening the door of the safe. It's not the tool that gets you access to the capital. The pitch is just the thing that initially opens the door. And if you can spend 3 to 5 minutes giving a top level pitch that covers all the key elements they're looking for to tick off their checklist of like, there's enough here for me to warrant my time, to invest my time in finding out more. So you're never really pitching for their capital in that moment, you're pitching for their time. And if they're willing to invest their time in finding out more after that pitch, the pitch has done its job.
Hi there and welcome back to the Personal Brand Business Show. My name is Bob Gentle and every week I speak with incredible people who share their secrets to building, marketing and monetizing your expertise, intentionally growing a unique personal brand and the mindset you need for your business to grow and thrive. If you're new, then while you still have your device on your hand, take a second to subscribe. That way you won't miss a single episode. And if you're a regular listener or viewer, then consider sharing this show with just one person. It's the very best way you can help the show grow and help me reach more people. And if you are watching on YouTube, again, hello, you're the best. While you're feeling good about me because I said that, hit subscribe and also give the video a thumbs up and consider a comment, even before you've seen a thing. Just telling everyone on YouTube the show is awesome because the YouTube algorithm needs that kind of coddling. So, money makes the world go round. And if you have big expansion plans or your ideas take a lot of money to build, you might well need some money from someone else. Today on the show, I'm talking to James Church about getting pitch ready. And if I know one thing to be true about business, whether you're looking for investment or not, life's a pitch. So James, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Thrilled to be here.
So I joke about life being a pitch, but honestly, I think at every stage of business, you have to persuade other people that what you have and what you bring to the market is a good idea, whether you want customers or you want people to invest in your business. And this is really your area of specialism, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this today. But for the listener who's maybe meeting you for the first time, could you maybe just tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and the kind of work you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Just on your comment of life's a pitch, my growth mentor uses the phrase, entrepreneurship is a journey of 1,000 pitches. From seeding the idea all the way through to pitching the exit of your business, it's a journey of 1,000 pitches. So I love that sentiment that life's a pitch. So yeah, so I'm James Church. I'm the author of the best-selling book Investable Entrepreneur. Basically, I help founders communicate their proposition with investors so that investors want to invest in their business, help them convince investors their business is the one to back. So I've co-founded an agency with my business partner, Nick, called Robot Mascot. Robot Mascot's an award-winning investment readiness agency. And yeah, we do exactly that. We build financial forecast business models and pitch materials to help founders secure the investment that they need. And all the processes and methodologies, everything that I talk about in my book and that we implement at Robot Mascot basically leads to our founders being 40 times more likely to secure the capital that they're looking for. So huge successes, which is what's led us to winning those global awards and getting the recommendations that we do.
So 40 times more likely to receive investment. That is not insignificant. I was reading earlier that apparently it's something like 1% of people who attempt to get investment actually achieve it. So if you can increase that to a 40% likelihood, that's really, really significant.
Hugely. Yeah, massively significant. It's tough, right? It's tough to raise the investment that you're looking for. There's a lot of competition out there, more competition than ever. And you've got to be able to cut through the noise. You've got to be able to pitch in a way that gets those investors to sit up, take notice, and then ultimately want to close the deal with you. It does go beyond the pitch. We used to boast that we got 10 times better a success rate. We had a 10x success rate. And that was when we focused just on pitching. We were just a pitching agency. And then we realized that our clients were getting great responses from their pitch. They were getting into meetings with investors, but still we didn't feel enough of them were closing the deal. We looked into why that was, and that led to the full kind of strategy that we implement now, which is not just the pitch, but also the financial projections, the business case, and having the whole narrative from initial conversation and initial pitch all the way through to the due diligence and closing the round. And if you can communicate your business in the right way at every step of that funding journey, you're massively going to increase your chances.
So one question I have, I guess, is one of the issues with startup businesses before they've had any investments is they typically don't have any money. And I'm wondering, at what point are you typically getting involved in a business? Because you can't work for no money. So what does that look like for you? Where do you get involved?
Yeah, so obviously the startup ecosystem is extremely broad, and there are startups out there with no money at all, and that's fine. That's what the book is for. That's what our free downloads, our free resources are for. We want to support the full, the whole ecosystem, any founder who's looking to seek investment. And there's loads of free resources and advice and support out there that we've created to support those founders. Typically speaking, we're working with founders that do have some capital to spend. They've perhaps left a corporate role, saved up a bit of a startup budget, and they've kind of launched a business that's probably solving a problem they identified in that corporate role. Or they're a serial entrepreneur. They perhaps already have a consultancy business. They've built some technology within their business to improve their own efficiencies or something like that, and they're spinning that out as its own kind of product that they could sell to the market or similar kind of idea to that. So there tend to be people that, in terms of our consulting services, that have some capital to invest in raising the money that they need. But we also have kind of lower cost programs where you can join a sort of a 12-week sprint to get yourself investment ready. We do some mentoring services, which are a different price point to our full kind of done for you consulting. So we try to offer a number of different options, from free advice and support all the way up to done for you consulting to support founders with various different appetites and budgets.
So something I'm wondering about. I have lots of questions. I think the first one, I guess, is from an investor's perspective, what kind of ROI do they expect? Because not all ideas have got the same potential. You can have an idea that you think, yes, this makes perfect logical sense. I can see how this can turn into a business, but I can't see how this can turn into necessarily a multi-million-pound business. It might be too niche. Are there any ideas that you come across? You think, this is an amazing idea. We know it's going to work. We know it's unique, but it's not big enough to really become investable. Is that a real problem, or is that just in my head?
That happens all the time, and you're then in that chicken and egg situation as a founder of, I need to get some capital to get this off the ground, but I'm probably not in a position where I'm attractive enough to an investor. So I need to look at alternative sources of funding, and debt may not be an option because you don't have any revenues to pay back that debt. So then it kind of, it only really leaves you to bootstrapping. And it probably means that, if you can't get it off the ground in some other way without a huge initial capital expenditure, and the market's quite small, it's probably not particularly viable business. And perhaps you need to look at different ways of solving that problem that you can get off the ground in a bootstrapped manner if it's too small a niche. Or you need to look at repositioning this concept to a larger, more scalable opportunity into a different market or a number of different markets. Could this initial niche project just be the kind of route to market, the kind of proof of concept? And then once you've established it in that niche, are there a number of other sectors and markets and verticals in which you could expand into using the same technology, but in a slightly different way? And then maybe that creates a more scalable and investable opportunity. But in terms of ROI, it really does depend on sector and the sorts of investors you're looking for. So there's no straight answer to this, but just to give some examples, if you're a high growth tech company, then an angel investor, a high net worth individual investing in an early stage round might be looking for ultimately a 10 to 30 times return on their investment, knowing that about 80% of their portfolio will fail, and the 10% that succeed will deliver them all the returns and pay back the money lost. If you're talking to a VC firm, a venture capital firm in the tech space, they might be looking for sort of 50 to 100 times return on their investment. They take much bigger risks. They want much higher scale, but they only have about 1% of their portfolio succeed. So they have to pay back 99% of the losses from one that will make that return. So that one shining star in their portfolio pays back all of their losses. If you then switch that to something like a consultancy or a restaurant business, maybe a 5x return would be really well received by investors in that sector. So it's all about understanding your own niche, what investors expect in your niche, and your stage of development and what they expect if they're investing at a sort of an early stage or a later stage kind of round. So there's no straight answer, but you should be able to kind of get to talking to some investors and figure out what's needed in your niche.
So I guess as somebody who is paying attention to pitches on a regular basis, I'm curious to know from you, what are the most common pitfalls or failures to execute that you experience? And I guess this is true of people who are pitching for investment, but as somebody who's tuned into the pitch, also in a more broad context, maybe failing to really bring your point across, what are the most common pitfalls that you see?
I think the structure of the narrative is an area that a lot of founders struggle. They jump across different kind of sections. There's not clear kind of narrative. So we use a structure that initially kind of sells in the heart. It kind of gets the emotional across, and then we kind of sell in the logical kind of strategic stuff in the business. And we kind of use this structure that kind of engages emotionally first, gets their buy-in to the vision, and then starts to think more strategically about the business. So you're speaking to the head and the heart, and I think a lot of founders kind of mix those messages up in the business, in the pitch, and your mind can't almost keep up, and it's kind of sort of 1 minute it's like it's emotional, and now we're into some logic, and then I'm a bit, it just doesn't create such a nice flow to the content. I think the other thing is the content itself, like writing too much, not being articulate enough. I think we're always told at school that everything should have a beginning, middle, and end. When we talk to write, and when it comes to articulate pitch content, you cut out the middle. You just need the beginning and the end. You need a headline. You need a headline that's not like, I call it the setup and score format, and you kind of need a headline in your pitch that isn't the solution or our problem, the problem we're solving, or like that headline needs to be an engaging, almost like the conclusion of what you want the reader, the audience to come to when you're pitching that concept. So instead of key milestones, it might be proof of concept launch and or proof of concept achieved and ready to launch, first customers adopted and ready to scale, not key milestones. So I can go through every slide of the pitch and just read the headlines, and I should get a summary of what you're trying to tell me. So your headline's the conclusion, and then you just have a few short snappy points that get across, like that back up that statement. Cut out the middle, you just have the end and the beginning. So they're probably the two biggest, and then just clarity, just refine, not spending the time refining the content for clarity and making sure you're getting rid of anything that's unnecessary. So you've got the right structure, you've got the right content, you've got clarity. And then finally, sort of the design, really. The design has a huge impact, and not enough people are really investing enough in the way their pitch looks, their slides look when they deliver that pitch, because ultimately you want to look like this kind of successful unicorn business that you're promising to become. And if it looks uninspiring, if it looks a little bit run of the mill, then the initial reaction from the investor within about 4 seconds is, oh, this looks a bit naff, but I suppose I better give it a go. And they read through it, and you're trying to convince them from that negative perception. Whereas if their initial reaction is, whoa, this looks awesome, you've already got them in a positive mindset, and they're going to absorb your content in a very different way. So psychologically, the design can have a huge impact on the way that your message is perceived. So yeah, they're probably the 4 areas that I see founders struggle with when it comes to pitching.
I think the brand element is so easy to underestimate, because people think it's a great idea, it's a great product, the logic is flawless. But if the brand isn't there, then people have to decide, here's the decision people are making. My reaction has been positive, so now I'm going to have to find a reason to exclude you. Or has my reaction been negative, at which point I have to find a reason to include you.
Mm.
Which one do you want to be? You want to be the one where people are going to have to find a reason to not include you. Exactly. And if you get the branding and the positioning right, your odds of success are much, much higher. I guess I'm kind of curious, and I think a lot of people probably wonder the same. Let's imagine I've got a prototype product. it's fairly unique in the market. It's solving an obvious problem. And maybe need 5-10 million pounds to really help with the marketing budget. How long should I expect to be pitching on average? What I mean by that is in a pitch. I'm in a pitch. I'm in a room now, or virtually.
Yeah.
The clock has started. How long would that pitch normally last?
Again, I wish I could give you a straight answer on this one, but it will really depend on the style of the investor you're pitching to, or the relationship you have with them. So sometimes you might be invited in for a more formal pitch event, and you're presenting to a room of decision makers in that fund, and hopefully before then you have pre-qualified what that meeting entails. How long have I got to pitch? How long is the Q&A? What happens next? So you know what you're getting yourself into and you can prepare for those time slots. I like to, when you're talking more to individual angels and high net worth individuals, and perhaps it's less formalized than a fund, I would always try and take the initiative as a founder and do what you think you're most comfortable with. So if you've got a 5-minute script or a 3-minute script that you can pitch, and you're really comfortable with that, and then taking Q&A because you feel it builds a better rapport, then if you've got a half-hour meeting booked with an investor, I'd be setting what I call an upfront contract and say, right, the way I tend to run these meetings, even if it's your first one, right, the way I tend to run these meetings is give you an initial sort of 5-minute pitch with some slides, then open it up to some Q&A, and then at the end of the meeting we can decide whether or not there's a interest here, and we can book next steps. Is that okay with you? And then they'll say yes, or they'll say, well, to be honest, I'd rather you just send me your pitch prior to the meeting, I'll read through it and we'll just have a chat. And that's how I prefer to make. I'd rather get to know you. I don't want you hidden behind some slides and a script. Send me the details, send me the full pitch. We'll then have a conversation in that call, and then we'll make a decision from there. And you can decide whether that's okay for you or not. So it's about just being open and understanding. But generally speaking, you don't want to be pitching for more than 5 minutes. If you can do it in 3, great. The more time you've got for questions afterwards. I talk about it like that, like the pitch is the key to opening the door of the safe. It's not the tool that gets you access to the capital. The pitch is just the thing that initially opens the door. And if you can spend 3 to 5 minutes giving a top level pitch that covers all the key elements they're looking for, to tick off their checklist of like, there's enough here for me to warrant my time, to invest my time in finding out more. So you're never really pitching for their capital in that moment. You're pitching for their time. And if they're willing to invest their time in finding out more after that pitch, the pitch has done its job. So it's just about opening the door, giving them enough information to go, I can drill into that in a further conversation. They've got something here. They've thought through the strategy. They've thought through the concept. They've thought through the value proposition. There's enough here to warrant my time investing in finding out more about this before I decide to invest my capital. So yeah, that's the general rule.
I think one of the things I love about your business is how tight you've niched, because in many respects, if you look through the glasses of somebody who maybe doesn't really know the industry, you could be accused of just being another creative agency. And I think a lot of people would traditionally go to a creative agency and have the kind of work that you do done, but it's done at huge risk, because have they done it before? Do they know what works, what doesn't work? When you really niche in tight, you deliver one solution to one person. Additionally, and this is one of the things that I noticed looking around your website, is you build a team of people who are designed to deliver exactly what your customer needs. If I came to you as a bakery, you would not be able to help me, and I would be shown the door quite quickly. But unless I was looking for investment, I guess. But you're not going to work with anybody other than the ones in your niche.
Yeah.
And when you visit the website, what that allows you to do is build a resource that speaks for you. There's so many resources on your website that most people would find completely useless. But your ideal customer, it's a goldmine. There's so many things on your website that would be attractive to only your potential customers. And I think anybody, even if you're listening or watching and you're thinking, this interview is not relevant to me, it's relevant to you. Go and look at James's website and understand how well this is put together for your customers and your customers only. It's a masterclass in tight niching.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the best decisions we made was to niche. We started life as a full service creative agency. We were a brand communications agency, and we did radio ads, we did some TV ads, we did brochures and websites and all of this stuff just to get work through the door. And my co-founder's very much the lead on brand. He's the expert around branding. And we spotted this opportunity. We had some advisors who were also investors. We had some clients that were also startups who said, can you help me with your pitch? We were a young agency, needed some work, and said, yeah, of course we can. We've seen Dragon's Den. How hard can it be? Right. So we put their pitch together. We figured out what needs to go in it. They got some great successes. And then our advisors saw the work and were like, this is outstanding compared to what we get in our inbox every day as angel investors. Like, if you can package this up in some way, you could have a really nice little project or product here that you could offer. So we kind of explored that. We created a secondary website. We explored it as a niche, and that led to these insights. It led to the book. And then we took the decision that actually we were making such headway in that part of that niche versus trying to spread ourselves so thinly with being a sort of full service creative agency, that it made sense for us to really niche in on that and just go all in. And we sort of did that pivot then of kind of making that our primary objective, and it's, you know, we saw instant results from that because of the tight communication you can create. We understood our customers' wants, needs, problems so much better, and we could communicate them so much better without worrying that we were turning away people that might not interest. So yeah, absolutely. It feels scary because it feels like you're reducing your scope to win work, but actually it increases your scope to win work because you very quickly become the go-to expert. Within 6 months, we were recognized by a number of key kind of businesses and brands in the industry as the UK's leading pitch agency. That happened within months, that people were calling us that. We were like, right, we're having that. That's going on the website. But it didn't take long because we'd niched so much and there wasn't really anyone else doing what we were doing. So we had to be the UK's leading pitch agency at the time because we didn't have much competition. We do now, but we didn't then. So yeah, it really, really helped.
I think when you niche like that, yeah, there will always be competition. You might get the dance to yourself for a while, but it won't take long. But I think even with competition, there are so many startups all the time, so many people looking for investment, that there's plenty of opportunity. And I think this is, I guess, where the personal branding element starts to come into it, that it's all very well being known as the UK's leading agency. But if you yourself are known as one of the UK's leading experts, because you're willing to invest of yourself and take personal risks, coming on a podcast, writing a book, these aren't for the faint-hearted a lot of the time. What you find is most of the time your competitors aren't willing to make themselves uncomfortable to that degree. And it's that discomfort that actually is the competitive advantage a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think, the personal brand element that we sort of layered in probably sort of 18 months, 2 years after we decided to niche into this space was an absolute game changer. I think after writing the book, which kind of was the launch of the personal brand, really, we saw revenue grow about 300% in the 12 months that followed as a result of having that personal brand associated with the business. Because people buy from people. They don't buy from brands. You look at, I don't know, Virgin, and you compare the number of Twitter followers Richard Branson has versus Virgin, or Elon Musk versus SpaceX. Like, people buy from people. They want to follow individuals with faces, not necessarily logos. So you've got 3 tiers of brand, haven't you? You've got the business brand, the product brand, and then the personal brand. And every or most successful businesses will have a personal brand as part of that mix. And it absolutely was the catalyst for us to level up to the next level of our development, for sure.
And in your business, one of the questions I'm always curious to ask is how opportunity actually finds you in a very practical sense. Because in most businesses, it's going to be one of 4 routes. It's going to come through outbound sales activity, ads, content and content marketing, or relationships. How does that typically look in your business, I guess, now? And how does that contrast perhaps to how it used to be?
Yeah. So we currently use all of those. But we started, I think we started where most consultants and agencies start, and that's relationships, and it was referral partnerships. And there was a lot of getting to know key players in the industry and showcasing our values. So we developed relationships with partners like Seed Legals and Crowdcube and Seeders, who are big names in the industry, and did work with exactly the same customers, but with very different products. Some were crowdfunding platforms, others are legal platforms, but they all do it for startups seeking funding. And we were the sort of the missing piece to that, to the core. You've got three things you need. You need someone to do your legals, someone to do your pitch, and someone to get you investors. And we were kind of the missing piece. So we kind of slotted in there really nicely. And as we built those relationships with them, shared our content with them, shared our results with them, we became their trusted partners, and they started sending clients our way. We were doing partnership events with them. So we'd put on talks and events for their audience and vice versa. So we do kind of lead swapping and that kind of thing. And that just built and really kickstarted our business. So it was very much partnerships and relationships to begin with. The next thing we did was then go, right, we need inbound. We can't grow this business off partnerships alone. So we've got a bit more capital now because we've got this business motoring. So we're going to invest in inbound. And that's through Facebook ads that don't sell our service. It's about, we see ourselves as the friend, the allies to founders. We're a guide, we're a supporter. So we don't want to go straight in with a hard sell. Our Facebook ads are basically, if you're looking to raise capital, here's a free copy of a best-selling book, and all you have to do is complete this short quiz that's going to give you a report on your investment readiness. So you get this bundle of value in return for clicking this ad. And then from there, we have a sophisticated funnel that takes them, nurtures them, and turns those leads into sales. So that's very much about ads, but ads that add value as opposed to selling a product. Yeah, we do plenty of. We've just started with some outbound, which is a new thing for us. So we pretty much use a lot, all of those things. But ads and partnerships are probably the two key drivers for our growth.
And you have your own podcast as well. I think that's not your baby, is it? That's your colleague's baby. But as an organization, you have the podcast as well.
Yeah, so we have a podcast, the Art and Communication podcast, which is more around brand and how to develop kind of brand stories and looking at kind of leading communicators in their fields. So that's an extension of our vision, which is we want to see great ideas and innovations flourish. And we get frustrated when we see great ideas fail because of poor communication. That's our vision and our mission. And it's an extension of that expresses it in a different way than just talking about investment all the while. It kind of talks more broadly around the principles of communication and brand. And
we've mentioned the book a few times. And whenever I meet somebody who's written a book, I'm always curious to understand a little bit about what that was like. Obviously, it's quite a process producing a book. Did you self-publish that, or was it through a traditional publisher?
Yeah, it was a hybrid publisher. So it's sort of semi-self-published, but with someone who knows what they're doing, basically. Right. So they supported me through it, gave me the kind of support around the structure and how to begin the writing process. And then I wrote the book, and they copy edited it, or what do they? Yeah, the editing. They did the editing and the publishing part. But I found it really useful, really therapeutic, quite enjoyable. It was a lot of work. I wrote the book over a period of about 6 months in the evenings after putting the kids to bed. So I'd put the kids to bed at 7, and I'd work on the book twice a week till about 2 a.m. And then that was just how because I didn't have time during the day. I was running a business, right? So that's how I managed to do it. And I just got into that habit. Every week doing that on these 2 set days, I would write the book, and I actually found it really therapeutic because it allowed me to get all of this information that I'd collected over the years on how to pitch for investment, and allowed me to express it in a formulaic way that made me better public speaking, made me better in sales pitches, made me better in all kinds of scenarios, dealing with clients and explaining why we do what we do to clients, because I had all of these analogies and stories and processes and steps that I've written about in the book. And that, so it kind of really helped me structure and formulate what was sort of swimming around in my head and get it out on paper, so I didn't have to remember it anymore. It was just kind of there, and it was almost a reference tool for me and my team around everything we'd learned over the last few years. So yeah, really, really enjoyable and therapeutic exercise, I felt.
Another thing I noticed was that Daniel Priestley is one of your investors and
Yes.
one of the advisors. And I've had Daniel on the show, and I asked him what his process for getting involved in or starting up other businesses was like. And he described it as being a bit like a bank robbery. I don't know if he's ever used this analogy with you before, but he said, you need your driver, you need the wheel, you need the safe guy, and then you need somebody who knows the layout of the bank. And then you get together, you plan the job, and you do the job. I'm not doing it justice, Daniel, if you're listening, I'm sorry. But I'm curious to know what that looked like from your side and what the story was of how that came to be. Anybody who doesn't know who Daniel Priestley is listening or watching, he's written a ton of books about business, small business growth, marketing, you name it. He is very well known. So I'm curious to know what's the backstory.
So in terms of how he got involved.
Yeah.
So I think at the time, Dan was going through a process with his Dent Accelerator, which his flagship program is the Key Person of Influence Accelerator, which is about personal branding. And we built this business and we didn't have the personal brand element. And he was initially introduced. We'd been a fan of his for a while. He didn't know that at the time. And we got introduced to him by a mutual friend or colleague and partner. And Dan was interested in this whole idea of pitching, because one of his key principles in his personal branding is the pitching element of it. And he was looking for strategic partners who could deliver on core aspects of his program. And he had a publisher that could help with publishing the book, but he didn't have anyone in pitching. So he wanted to talk to us about that. And so we were talking to him. I was kind of super excited to meet him because I'd been a fan for years, but I tried to play it cool. And he was asking some questions, and he quite quickly established that his perception of us through our company brand and our website at the time was that we were much bigger than we were, and that we had some kind of superpower there, and we had something lying in wait that just needed the right key to unlock its potential. I think he might have a different opinion, but that's how I felt the conversation went. So very quickly, the conversation went from how can we do a kind of referral partnership to how can I get involved in the business and help you unlock the potential that I see here, because you've got so much. You should, based on what I've seen, you should be 10 times bigger as a business than you are right now. So he came on board and helped us unlock that potential, and here we are today. So yeah, that's kind of how that came about, a sort of a happy coincidence, I suppose. A nice referral from a particular individual, and yeah, now he's a shareholder and guides us through our growth. So yeah,
I think that's quite an asset, because yeah, he has a great eye for business. It's a really rare thing.
Yeah, he's very, very good, very talented. So yeah, if you've not come across Daniel, definitely read his books, because they were a game changer for us.
So speaking of game changing, I think one thing we know about business is it's never standing still. It's nice to look back at what brought a business into being. It's nice to look at what it's doing now, but you're ambitious. You've got Daniel Priestley as part of the gang. Obviously, you're looking for bigger and better things. So what does your vision of the future look like for the business? And at the same time, I'm assuming that vision of the future is going to require you to continue to be uncomfortable and doing things you haven't done before, and what that looks like.
Yeah, so I mean, our ambitions are pretty clear. We want to initially achieve substantial growth, and then when the time is right, achieve a nice exit for ourselves and repay Daniel his faith. So that's kind of the strategic vision, sort of from a long-term financial perspective. I think We very much want to be, we're already kind of working globally with clients. We're winning global awards for what we do, but I think we want to establish ourselves more on a global scale rather than the odd client from outside the UK. We want to definitely be more established in Europe, and we want to probably have a much more of a presence in the States. So we want to start having that global presence at some point. And then we want to continue supporting our clients. So it's always looking at opportunities as to what comes next in their journey. So we started by pitching, helping them with their pitch. We would then transition from a pitching agency to an investment readiness agency, and we now help them with their business planning and their forecasts. Earlier this year, we launched a investor outreach service to help them then go and reach out and find prospective investors to have conversations with. So we're always developing and looking at what's next in the journey that we can do to help improve the success rates of our clients and ultimately help them longer term in the journey. So there's loads of ideas and things out there that we're exploring, from investor relations to exit services to all kinds of things that we've got in the back of our minds as to where this could go. But all of those things are things that, ultimately we come from a brand marketing and communication background, and we're having to bring in the expertise who we can leverage to package up and develop a service that's, the risk and the scary bit is making sure that we maintain the quality as we expand in both the services we're doing now and bring on new services to support founders through that entrepreneurial journey. We don't dilute our niche, dilute our positioning, and dilute our credibility in terms of the level of service we provide, and start offering stuff that we can't deliver very well. So that's always the risk. That's the scary bit to me, is keeping, we've got a great reputation, and we don't want to ruin that reputation by trying to push the business too far in a direction we're not sure about.
I think it must be a terrible temptation that you have these clients that you've brought on, you get them pitch ready, they pitch, they win their pitch, and then you could potentially continue working with them for a decade, but then they need different services, you need different team, you have different processes. It must be quite a temptation to resist.
Yeah, because there's loads of opportunities. Like once you've raised funding, you potentially need a fractional CFO, and we built their forecast, so we could quite easily offer fractional CFO services, but it just doesn't feel like us. We're at our heart, we're a communications agency, so it needs to fit with the brand and the vision, and we have to do it in the right way, even if it means losing out on potential revenues. I think well, I think
it's potential revenue today at the cost of your future.
Exactly.
That's the reality that you're understanding very clearly.
Yeah.
If anybody's listening and they're thinking, I like the sound of this, I guess it's probably quite important for you to maybe say, what does an ideal client look like for you, in order that people can think, I need to refer, or that's me, or whatever.
So, I mean, we work with, to use some industry terminology, pre-seed, seed, and Series A founders, stage founders. So that means it's your first round of investment where you're looking to get your concept off of the ground, or you've got some early traction, some first users, some first revenues, and you're looking for a round of investment to grow the business to a point where you're hitting some substantial revenues and perhaps even profitability. Or you're at that profitable stage, or you're at sort of $1 million in revenues and you're looking for some growth capital to kind of 10x the business from there. They're typically the types of businesses that we're working with. So all the way from early stage concept to those that are doing around about $1 million in revenues. If you're doing 10, 20 million in revenues and looking for funding to go on to 100 or 200 million in revenues, we're probably not quite the right fit. So that's our kind of key area. So it's founders really who know they need to raise capital, have never done this before, don't really understand how the whole process works, because it's a murky world of lots of misinformation, and it's not something we're taught in school. Even people with an MBA will end up doing an afternoon's lecture on different sources of funding, but they're never really taught how to do this stuff. So if you or someone you know kind of fits that mold, then it's well worth checking us out and having a conversation, I think.
And if nothing else, you have all the goodies on your website for anybody that's in that position, or even thinking about it. So many things: value proposition calculators, financial forecasts. It was surprising how much was there. So well done.
Yeah, we've invested a lot in I say really following through on our ethos as a business to be the friends, allies, and guides for startup founders who are figuring this whole investment thing out for the first time. So we've invested a lot in providing a lot of useful resources.
So I guess both personally and as the company, where do you hang out online the most if people want to connect with you? And I guess we need to be clear, we actually give the website address for your business.
We talked about it a few times, so I mean, LinkedIn is the best place to get hold of me. I kind of post on all kind of the major channels, Facebook's, Twitter, YouTube. You can follow Robot Mascot on YouTube, subscribe, and there's regular videos that go out from me with support and advice. But LinkedIn is the main place I hang out and where you'll get through to me quickest. And the website's robotmascot.co.uk. There's resources there for you. If you go to pitchready.co.uk, that will take you to our scorecard where you can benchmark your investment readiness, how ready you are for investment, and off of the back of that, you'll be able to order a free copy of my book directly to your door. If you're in the UK, if you're outside of the UK, there's a PDF or an audiobook version you can access, but you'll get a free copy of the book, opportunity to come along to one of my strategy sessions. I do regular funding strategy sessions. You'll get a complimentary ticket to one of those. So you just go to pitchready.co.uk and you'll get a whole bundle of goodies to help you figure out whether raising investment is right for you, and if it is, what you need to do to get yourself ready for it.
And I guess that does bring us to a nice place to end. I think I've had a lot of fun. Anybody that's listening will have got a lot of value out of this. I think your business story, there's a lot there. I think your personal journey within that business is really interesting. And just, I think it's a departure from where we normally go on this show. Usually we're focused on the online entrepreneur, the sort of the expert business that actually you are at the end of the day. You are an expert business coming at it from an agency perspective, and you've done a phenomenal job with it. And I think reflecting on that, there's going to be a lot of lessons for everybody. I guess a good place to end, and I don't forget that often, but I need to ask the question, what's one thing you do now that you wish you'd started 5 years ago?
Yeah. So I think, can I say two things?
Yes, you can.
We've mentioned them both in today's kind of podcast. The first is I wish we'd found our niche and niched earlier, been brave enough to niche earlier. So that's the first thing. And the second thing would be to be brave enough to develop a personal brand earlier. It took us, we had 5 years of just about getting by before we even got a glimpse of some form of what you could call success. There were 5 long, tough years of barely scraping by. And there's lots of stories around, sitting there at Christmas, me and my co-founder looking at the bank account and saying, we can't pay ourselves. And then suddenly someone walks through the door of our office and they want to work with us. And it's literally because we were next door to where they lived and they couldn't be bothered to walk to search around. And it was just like that. Like without that, we wouldn't have been able to pay ourselves before Christmas type thing. So there's all these sorts of stories of really tough times, and our mistakes, I think, were 1, not niching soon enough, and 2, not building a personal brand when we did. And if we'd have done those things earlier, we'd be 5 years further ahead where we are now. So that's one thing.
I absolutely echo everything you just said. I was there as well. Running an agency for 6-7 years was a hamster wheel of pain. And yes, I put off niching because I was scared of it, put off the personal brand. I had my podcast mic for 4 years before I ever recorded a thing. The day that I did that, everything changed. So yeah, I absolutely echo that. James Church from Robot Mascot, you have been great fun. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to having you on the show again at some point in the future. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.